All right, here we go, folks. Thank you. We appreciate you joining us tonight. We got an exciting show for you all tonight. We're going to talk about leaders. We always talk about leaders, obviously. That is what we do here. We're going to be talking about how leaders can make the best of themselves and where that starts and how that actually works. I'll give you some very specific things to take a look at and some action steps that you can take. Here we are. This is Mainline Executive Coaching ACT. I'm here with my partner, great guy, Rich Barron. Appreciate being here
Hello.
with you tonight. I'm Maikel Bailey, and we're going to jump right into it. So, we're talking about when you work with an executive coach, somebody who's going to help you develop your leadership abilities. I'm going to take a hard look at that tonight. What is it that's going to be going on? What is it you're looking at, and what kind of results can you expect? So, let's start there, Rich. What can they actually expect from doing this kind of work with working with us, coming to us and saying, here's what's on my plate. This is what I want to do. And we say, let's take that, let's start doing something great with it.
I think to start with that and back up a little bit, there's a lot of assumption out there that executive coaching is consulting or it's therapy or we're mentors or we're life coaches. And really, we're not. We're focused on you. We're not focused on the problems of your organization. We're focused on the individuals because as an executive coach, we focus on those individuals in the organization that are guiding that organization that could use the ability to become better leaders. Now, when we talk about becoming a better leader, again, there's an assumption that leadership and executive coaching is simply about the business world, about you as a leader in your business world. But you got to understand that we start further back. We start with looking at your inner core, who you are, what your beliefs are, what your feelings are, how they impact that outer core, the communication skills and everything else. But that inner core drives who you are throughout your life, not only at work, but at home or around your peer group or those sort of things. So executive coaching not only helps individuals become better leaders and in turn better organizations, it helps you. You're going to gain life skills out of this that will last you a lifetime.
It's true. It's this. It's You really take a look at it. You really look at it. You bring you wherever it is that you go, and how well you're able to manage yourself and focus yourself and motivate yourself to get things done. This is the real deal here when you get down to it. And when you're in a leadership position, you're primarily taking a look at two things. One is your ability, your personal ability to get things done, and that has to do with your natural talents and abilities, the education that you have, and the experiences that you've had both in life and also in the work world. So you're just your ability to bring that power to bear to get things done. The second one is kind of indirect power, and that's the ability to influence others. And so, number one, you're influencing people indirectly by being who it is that you're talking about here, Rich. Who it is that you bring, all that stuff, that inner core stuff that then shows and how you execute your own job. But then in how that then has the ability to influence others, just you being who you are. It's a kind of an indirect of, well, this guy or this gal really has together, or maybe not so much, or whatever it may be. But then it's also your ability to how good are you in relationships? How good are you at managing other people, influencing them, building them, motivating them, communicating with them, really hearing them and understanding them. Know where that sweet spot to get that person going and get them excited, knowing how to get them out of a slump, or how good are you at those things? So leadership focuses, this is what we focus on, is how do we get you going with the most high level performance power you can get in a way that strongly develops your inner core and works from your inner core. And then also, how do we help you do that so that you inspire others to perform their best? That's no easy thing. That's a lot of moving parts in that, Rich.
There are a lot of moving parts. And so that's why we say prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. The first part of this journey is going to be simply learning who you are, helping you understand where your starting point is through a series of assessments, and also up through a 360 review with your stakeholders. Now, let me back up with that initial assessment. We have an assessment called an MLEI, the Tone Leadership Enneagram Inventory, which is designed specifically to look at your leadership ability. Now, but a lot of people think, well, I've done assessments before. I've done DISC assessments. I've done different types of assessments, all great assessments. The difference between this one and those are there are over 12,000 global leaders in the database that we have information on that have used this assessment to start their own personal leadership journey. Now, that leadership journey included this MLEI, includes Steve Jobs, Bill Logue of FedEx, Roger Enrico of PepsiCo, among several others. And some of the best have really used this MLEI to really learn who they are as a leader and how to perform. And then it starts with a CPI 260 that will also enhance that MLEI, that assessment that will really help define who you are as a leader. Now, it starts with the inner core, your beliefs, your judgments, your feelings that drive who you are, what type of leader you are, what type of individual you are. And from there, it goes to the outer core, which is the communication skills, the team building skills, the management skills, the things that people see who you are. But all of that outer core is driven by that inner core assessments, who you truly are. And so for the first 2 to 3 months of this journey is simply focusing in on developing an understanding of who you are. And it's not an easy path. Executive coaching is not easy. It's not for the weak, because you're going to find things about yourself that you may not want to know. You may not want to hear, but it's important to have that framework in order to build your path going forward.
It's true. An attitude about this kind of a journey is essential. If you are feeling a little tepid about it, a little timid, not quite sure about it, you may not be ready, to be very honest with you. We want people that are excited about it. They're going to be eager to engage, to get in and do the work. I mean, they're rolling up their sleeves. They want to make this thing happen. Those are the ones and it's the attitude. And who determines the attitude, man? Each of us. We each determine our own attitude. Now, we may have practiced a poor attitude or a bad attitude, and that just we may think that's just how we are, but that's a bunch of baloney. And I love what you're talking about with the MLEI. The MLEI has this great ability to cut through a lot of the crap. The 260 also has a great ability to kind of cut through a lot of crap. That MLEI, though, is allows you to start seeing, here's your home base when it comes to leadership, basic leadership being. That's what we're looking at. How are you? How do you be as a leader? And we'll cut right to this. This is where your home base is at. This is how you actually work. Sometimes we get those pretty messed up. We think we're one thing when we're really not. And if we're playing off tune in the orchestra here or in the band, everybody else knows it, but we may not pick that up. But there's some kind of dissonance that we know it's just not working. Yeah. So it gets to that and it says, okay, here's your home base. And then it also gives you a chance to take a look at how do you screw it up? Let's just be honest about it. We all have a complete ability to screw things up, to sabotage ourselves. Some people are really good at hiding it, blame somebody else, so they're getting away with it. Some people just fall flat on their faces and there they are for the world. But you can't get away from the fact that we all individually screw it up. And so understanding where we're going to screw up and then knowing what to do about it is critical. And then finally, what are our weaknesses? So we take a look at, you're talking about this idea, and I love this idea, Rich. 2022, here we are at the beginning of 2022. What are you going to do in 2022 to make sure this is a better year than it was last year or any other year before, despite the difficulties, the turmoil, the tumult that's going on? Besides that, well, there's 3 things you really got to take a look at, and we can help you. We can help you figure out where you are on these 3 things. This is what this MLEI does. Number 1, what are your strengths? Oftentimes, instead of really learning how to develop and strengthen those strengths, we just rely on them.
Yes.
I'm just relying on them. Just trust that I can do it. I just, but not necessarily proactively, get in there and make him even better. The third thing second thing, I talked about was how we screw it up, our derailers. It will identify the derailer. Now, if you got a derailer, there's something you don't quite understand what you do. You just don't get, how do I mess this up? Or why aren't people, seeing me as that leader that I see myself as? What's holding me back? I'll tell you about one client that I dealt with. It was like, he's got an amazing portfolio, just an amazing guy, the things that he does, his talents, his accomplishment. But there's one thing that I started working with him that became evident, like just breakthrough, bright lights, evidence. He didn't stand up for what he really believed. And the C-level saw that. He lacked backbone. He had the knowledge, he had the skills, he had the understanding, had so much there, but he was afraid. And he allowed himself to become a people pleaser, rather than one of those guys that can break through that and stand up and say boldly, courageously, this is what it is. This is what I want to do. This is where it is that we're going. Because if you back away from that, you don't have that respect. He didn't realize, he kind of knew he did, but he didn't realize the depth of that. And then the last thing is, where are you just so freaking weak? Where are you not so good?
Yeah.
Those three things, we can help you identify the weakness. Let's get that turned around. Let's get you aware of what it is that you do to derail yourself. Let's get that fixed. And then let's help you with your strength. And we'll help you develop a plan, a leader development plan for each one of those areas that you can implement day after day, step by step, to bring out the best in you as a leader. That's what we do here.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's called that individual leadership development plan. And that comes after there's these, 2-3 months of really do that deep dive on who you are and what others see in you. And so it takes a lot of courage, a lot of humility, vulnerability, to really, really open up to this. I'll tell you what, Maikel, I'm going to ask you a question here. I'm going to put you on the spot. You know me pretty well, and you know what my MLAI was all about. That I came out, my highest thing that came out of that showed that I was a driver.
Right.
So tell me, I mean, you know me well enough to know. So I'm gonna open myself up here and ask you to on the flip side of this, what are the strengths of a driver and what are the weaknesses of a driver, and maybe what have you seen in me?
All right, drivers are people that love to get things done. They want to make things happen. They want to get on it, get it done, make it, push it forward, and get it done. And I see that very much in you. What's interesting about you is this, is that oftentimes drivers can be very powerful people in just, again, pushing the envelope, getting things done. Sometimes they're not particularly thoughtful people. Now, what's interesting about you is that you are a thoughtful person. So I think what we learned from your MLEI is that you have a lot of nurture in the driver, and yet at the same time, there's a part of you that is really quite thoughtful, quite studied, that loves to go and do the research. Every time we do one of these, you're always the guy that goes and does the research. I think it's fabulous. I went and I read these articles. You always start, I read these articles, and this is what I found out. Yeah, there's the problem solver guy. That's how it is that you work. And at the same time, you are an amazingly sensitive guy to other people. So that's not normal. That's not a normal thing for a driver to be sensitive and aware of other people's feelings and where they're coming from. So that's a driver usually is, their problem with drivers is this. And so you've kind of reversed engineered this. It's kind of a different kind of a duck, we could say, because you seem to have a lot of the stuff handled miraculously. Drivers often
there's the key word, miraculously.
It really is. I mean, it really is. If you take a look at that,
Yeah.
and that's a compliment, actually. Drivers will often go to the data to validate what it is they want to get done, which means they can become prejudiced about the data. but they often leave out of that loop people. How are the people going to feel? How do I bring the people into it? And for again, for whatever reason, you're really good with data and integrating that into, here's the results that we want, and you're also very sensitive to people about bringing them in and helping them get inspired, get caught up, and bring attention to what their needs are, so that they really are feeling part of the team, and then they invest themselves in developing the team. So you got a lot of great qualities, man. You got a lot of great qualities that you might not always expect in somebody who scored so high, and you scored very high as a driver.
Well, and here's one of the things I'll tell you I learned, and it was hard for me to, hear this as a driver, because I know I had some of those weaknesses, those derailing characteristics, that there was a lot of things that, I didn't have the patience on waiting. I wanted it done. And I tended, there were times I tended to push people to get those done where I wanted it to go. And when I read that, those weaknesses and those derailing characteristics, I sat back and thought about it, and it's like, absolutely, I've done that. I've been there. How did I make those people feel? What would they have told me if they could have been honest with me, or if I'd allowed them to be honest with me about those derailing characteristics of a driver that I know that I had exhibited at times? This MLEI really pointed that out for me when I first did this. And I'll tell you what, I wish I'd had these tools, 20 years ago. I wish I'd had the understanding of what these assessments and these tools and the coaching that we have gone through and learned how to do. I wish I'd have had that 20 years ago.
Now, see, I didn't know you back then.
Yeah.
I didn't know you like that. I knew you since then. And so you've been in the process of making some corrections on those already.
Right.
And that's the interesting thing. If you've taken these kind of, leadership development assessments, and I just ask you, frankly, this: when you got them, what'd you do with them?
Those, yeah, the tools that I got from this.
Well, not you. I'm just talking to other leaders.
Okay, absolutely. What they do with it?
And that becomes the issue then, really and truly. When you get these kind of assessments, these surveys back, what do you do with them?
Yes.
And see, that's part of what it is that we can do. We can show you, here's what you want to focus on. Let's focus on this area here. And let's do some specific things in this area to start bringing those strengths out. Let's take a look at this area over here. Let's see where it is. Again, you kind of screw things up. And most of the time, people don't want to go look at that. But we're going to go look at that. We're going to rip the Band-Aid off. And we're going to go probing in, and we're going to poke it around. That's what you talk about. Sometimes it's a bit painful when somebody's poking around some area where you just, frankly, you screw up.
Yeah.
You don't want to look at that, but you got to look at that. You got to poke around here in order to know what to do about it. And then there's other areas you just don't want to have anything to do with, because, I just suck in this area. I just stink. So why would I even go there to deal with it? Because anytime I do, it just fall flat on my face. I feel like a failure. But that is what leaders do. It's why they're courageous. It's why they're brave. It's why they've got, some backbone. It's why they got, that courage that comes out of their gut feeling to just, let's go take it. Let's go tackle it. Let's go get it on. Let's make this thing happen. That's why they're able to inspire others.
Yeah.
Because they work through the crap, they understand it, and they come out not on the other side, not only more skillful, better character, but a whole lot more compassionate about it. And that's hard. And very, very few leaders really do it. When you really get down to it, you take a look at the numbers, the real data, even in the best of organizations, your leadership is going to be somewhere between, B minus, B plus, maybe. Occasionally you might get somebody that's kind of like an A minus. Yeah. But you very rarely, even in the best of organizations, do you find a cadre of leaders that are all pumping on A minus A. It just doesn't happen. It's not real. And the reason it is, they've never done the kind of work that we can help them get them through that, so that not only, as we talked about before, not only address those things and get a new direction and momentum about it, but they now have that internal momentum to sustain it for the decades to come. That's what's magic about. If there's anything magic about coaching, it's that we finding that internal switch, with each of the clients that somehow just sets them on fire, that says, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. All this other stuff is just a bunch of crap. And all. Once you flip that switch on, or they flip that switch on, everything else changes. You just get out of the way.
And you will recognize things. You'll never not be able to recognize things, is what I'm saying, that we're going to teach you. Once you understand how to recognize those where your strengths are and where your gaps are, you will never not be able to recognize when those things come up. That's the one thing that I truly know from coaching. It's a lifelong, that's why I say it's a lifelong skill. It's a lifelong advantage to going through this, because you are going to be completely aware of your weaknesses, your strengths, and how to influence people around you with those, how to improve that. And you'll see when you're doing them. That's the one thing about this. You will be able to instantly recognize when your those derailing characteristics are kicking in, or any of these other things, and not just in the organization, in any place you're at. It's interesting.
What to do about it.
Yes.
The next thing, recognizing, knowing, this is what I do to stop it.
Yep.
This is what I do to turn it around. Those are skills.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing with executive coaching. There are dozens and dozens of publications and thousands of leaders, global leaders, who will tell you it works. It works. That executive coaching is, it's just like, how many pitchers do you know that made it the majors? And I'm a big baseball fan, and even, at the college level, how many of them do you know that did not have a coach that drove them to become a better person, pointed out their weaknesses, and then taught them how to overcome that? Their mechanics, if you will. How do we fix those mechanics? Because if you have bad mechanics as a pitcher, you're going to injure yourself. You're going to get hurt. Bottom line, you're going to hurt yourself the more you start using those bad mechanics. But when you have a coach that teaches you how to change those mechanics, how to change the way that you're throwing, how to change the way you approach the game, approach each batter, and same in life, approach each situation, that's where you improve. It's not a coach, there's not a pitcher out there that had a coach in a box. They didn't have an online coach in a box. They had someone they worked with one-on-one. Not, they didn't go to a gigantic seminar and this coach lined everybody up and had them go through pitching drills. That's, they may have done that at a camp or something like that. But in the end, they worked with someone one-on-one who cared about their progression, cared about where they're going to be that next level. Same thing with the executive coaching. Our track record is people who stick with us for more than 6 months have 100% guarantee that they will improve. And that has been, we've proved that. The people who are with us more than 6 months with executive coaching and ILEC more than 6 months improve to some degree 100% of the time. And not only that, it's proven that the average return on investment is 7 times. PricewaterhouseCoopers, several different studies, not only by them, but at an average of 7 times the return on investment, with some of them going as high as 40%. So here's the kicker.
Let's just play with this thought, and then we'll wrap it up here.
Okay.
You're talking about coaches that really train and coach pitchers, to really get their game, to get that so that they're really at a high level of, consistent performance as best they can. Now, here's the deal. I could go out and watch that guy pitch. I couldn't help him at all. I have no idea what I'm looking for. You could go out there because you've got more experience with that kind of stuff. There's probably some tips that you could give that individual about how to stand or stop and this and that kind of stuff. You could do it at some level, but that professional baseball pitching coach, that man's or even woman's mind is so attuned to every move, everything they do, the breath, the pause, the weight, and the wind up. They're so attuned to that. They know exactly what they're looking for, and they're looking exactly, and they can find immediately just the little things that are off that nobody else would know. It's that fine tuning of the coach, their ability to see, to understand even the emotionality of the pitcher at any particular moment. Before
And
they even
another thing
get
too,
out.
they watch the ball coming out of their hand, the end product, how they watch the seams on that ball. They can see the seams.
Yeah.
How is that coming out of their hand? How is that being delivered? Just like they know the finite details.
And so it's not anybody can go be that coach to help that professional ball player pitch better. There's not everybody can do that. And the same thing is here. It's not that we know your business. We don't have to know your business. We just need to watch and see what it is that you do as a leader, as you take the mound, as you put that ball in your glove, as you look down the alley there, and as you take your stand and you get yourself ready. And then you go up and you wind up and you throw that ball. And as you're saying, watching the ball. That's what we know to do. That's what we're fine-tuned into. That's why we can help you. All right.
Excellent.
Let's wrap this up. If they want to get a hold of us, all you baseball fans out there, baseball players,
Absolutely.
wannabes.
Well, here's the thing: is college baseball starts this week. This week. I got to tell you, my boy was up working out with a college up in Idaho. He's being recruited by a college up there, was throwing in a scrimmage game this last Friday. In the morning, the field was covered with snow. By the afternoon, they had gone out there and broomed all the snow off this field. The turf and they dried the turf, and it was 35 degrees, and they were still out there playing. So, yeah, starts this week.
Dedication.
Anyway. Dedication, absolutely. Executive Leaders Act, ILEC.com. Now, I got to tell you, the next 6 to 9 months are going to go by. 2022 is going to go by, whether you do something or not. The difference is, where do you want to be at the end of that 6 or 9 months from now, or the end of 22? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be in your skills and your leadership ability and your talents, and moving towards a path in your life that's going to help you improve long term? So that's what you got to ask yourselves. And if you want to find out more about that, or how at the end of 9 months, we can be standing there with you, patting you on the back, saying, job well done. Executive Leaders Act, ILEC.com. Reach out and talk to us. So, and we'd be happy to sit down with you and start the journey. So who are you shouting out to tonight, Maikel?
Let's talk to the people out there in Nebraska. Nebraska, thanks very much for tuning in. We appreciate you very much. It's a great state.
Oh my God. I got to tell you,
people moving to Nebraska.
Oh,
Did you know that? There's a lot of people moving out there because it is such a great state.
I flew into Nebraska the 1st of November, and flying in over Nebraska, I got to tell you, I was glued to the window in the airplane, because as far as you could see, it was just like this patchwork quilt.
Yeah.
All these fall colors and different fields, and it was absolutely beautiful. So, yeah, great place.
Nebraska, thumbs up. All right.
Okay. Well, everybody, thanks again. And we hope to see you next time. And take care. Be safe. We'll see you again.